Thank you to everybody who sent in getting to know you AMA questions. I'm going to now go through them. There's quite a few of them, so I'm just gonna get into it, but I brought my tea so that we'd be having a proper hangout while we do it. So the very first, and by the way, I'm not going to go comment by comment. I thought about that, but there were some themes that came up, so instead I'm going individual questions, kind of grouping the themes together. But you'll probably recognize which ones came from you. So the first question is your name Gina, or is that just an alias? Yes, my name is Gina. It's not an alias. It's not short for anything. It's just Gina. So very nice to meet you officially. The second question is, how old are you? I'm 37. Okay, hang on. I'm curious if that surprises you or if that's about what you expected. The next question, I got this a few times. This is, where do you live? Kind of thought my accent would give it away, but I live in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. So that's the very northwest corner of the United States in Washington State. And if you're not from here, that's different than Washington, D.C., which is on the opposite side of the country. But around here, it's like a lot of mountains, a lot of greenery. You know, it's known as like an evergreen area, a lot of outdoorsy things to do, and a lot of rain. But the summers are really beautiful, which keeps us all here instead of moving to California. Tied to this, the next question is, where did you grow up? Or it's only tied to it because I grew up here. I spent all of my childhood here, and then in my early 20s, I moved to France and I lived there for 6 years. But then after that, I came back, and I travel around a bit for work, but I'm really, really happy that this is my home base. So the next question is, how many siblings do you have? I have one older sister. She is older than me, but I'm a lot taller than her, so I call myself her big sister. And then another person asked, what family life do I have right now? And I'm married, no kids, no plan to have kids, so that's what I've got going on right now. And then the next question is, what do you do for work? So I work in education, specifically adult education, even more specifically technical topics. So I build curriculum for things like artificial intelligence. That's what I've been doing the past couple years. But relatedly, I also have worked on topics like data analytics and Python programming and JavaScript and things within that world. So technical curriculum development. I like it. Another one is, what do you do for recreation? So what do I do outside of work? Listen, I'm more of a house cat type person. So my favorite outside of work stuff is just reading. That's kind of why this channel exists, because I like to read and then share what I've read with you guys. But if I have to choose some more physical things, like this is maybe boring. I go to the gym a couple times a week. I take my dog on walks every day. And again, this is the Pacific Northwest, so I choose forest trails for going on those walks every day. But I live in a space that is it's a good sized piece of land, and the land includes forested area. And so I think that a lot of my recreation is seriously just being outside and tidying up this area that I get to steward right now. So, there's tons of debris that comes down from the trees, and I'm constantly collecting it and burning it or ordering it. I really like landscaping and gardening, but that's kind of my recreation. In the summer, there's some awesome beaches around here too, where I can go swimming, but I'm an indoor house cat. I'm sorry, that's probably disappointing to someone asking about outdoor recreation. But there we go. Now we're getting into some favorites. So favorite song. This is a hard one. It kind of pains me to answer this, because if you really like music, like I really like music, how do you just choose one thing? It's hard enough to choose one song for one genre, but I'll answer in fairness. So the ones that come to mind and have been tried and true through the years are Summer by Joe Hisaishi. That's a really beautiful instrumental piece, classical piece. But then one of my favorite musicians of all time is Tracy Chapman. And, I love her classic song, Fast Car. That, to me, one of the best songs ever written. I also really love her song Smoke and Ashes. So, if you haven't heard those, go check them out. Next is what's my favorite TV show? This one is a French show. It's called Call My Agent. That's the English word. In French, their version is called 10% or 10%. But I think if you can stand the subtitles, it's a really fun show. I also like that if you want to maintain another language, you can watch TV in that other language and, feel like you're not wasting your time. So I'm always, looking for a French movie or a French TV show as an excuse to brush up my French language skills. Okay, another one is favorite movie. This is actually a French movie too. It's called The Untouchables. That's with an I, not a U. And they did make an American English remake of it with the same name, but don't watch that one. Watch the French one. It's absolutely worth the subtitles. It's based on real events, and it's just, the most delightful story. So I highly recommend The Untouchables. Okay, hang on. I want to take a little sip. Thanks for hanging. Okay, the next question is, what's your favorite book? I love A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving. There's so many good books too. Like I said, I'm a reader. And I like nonfiction just as much as I like fiction. So my favorite book, Prayer for Owen Meany. It's a lovely story. You get some historical teaching in it that you get through osmosis of reading it. And I didn't seek this out, but there's also some really great theological themes in it. So it's a book I picked up once and didn't finish, but then I picked it up again 10 years later. I'm not sure why, and did commit to it and finished it. And, it's now my most cherished book. So love that. Recommend it. All right. This next question is another book one. And it says, if you were to make a list of 8 Christian or theological fiction books, what would they be? And I think this one came up because in my video descriptions, I list a few of my favorite nonfiction theological books. Maybe there's 8 of them, I'm not sure, but I think this is like the parallel list of you recommended your nonfiction, what are your favorite fiction ones? So you might feel like I'm cheating by saying this, but Chronicles of Narnia. Love them. Didn't know them as a child, but I've discovered them as an adult, and they're so theologically rich, but also just delightful. So, I recommend them for kids. I recommend them for adults. They're ones I keep reading again and again. And I especially love the book, The Last Battle. And that's 7 books. So I only have to choose one more. But I'm going to give you 2 more, and they're also C.S. Lewis. So Chronicles of Narnia, C.S. Lewis. My other 2 recommendations are the Screwtape Letters, which is a really interesting book kind of that gets into temptation and nuance of that. And then also The Great Divorce, which is a great allegory of, what happens after we die and engages with some of the emotional reasons people might not be interested in God. So anyhow, really recommend it. It's a great, fun, interesting story. And I think it does a good job of putting to words concepts that we don't have words for. So bravo, C.S. Lewis. The next question is, did you grow up in the church? No, I did not. And the next question after that is, how did you become a Christian? So I'll kind of answer these at the same time. But no, I didn't grow up in the church. I am the only Christian in my family, as far as I know. That'd be, maybe one day that'll change. But for now, I'm the only Christian. It wasn't a part of my life growing up. I already did a video kind of explaining how I became a Christian. And so I would encourage you to check that out if you want. It's called Why I Became a Christian, I think, or something like that. And it's one of the more popular videos on my page. So if you just go to my homepage and look in the popular videos section, you'll see that. But the short version is I was in high school and I was very antagonistic towards the Christian faith and religion in general. I was kind of happy to put down anyone's religion. And so anytime it came up in conversation, I would engage in the conversation and kind of poke holes in the different faiths and, ask questions in such a way to make it clear that religion was silly. And again, I go more into detail in the video, but then I encountered some people who weren't just cultural believers. They were people who actually had done the research and, their faith was not blind, for lack of better words. And so that kind of happened at the same time as me, for the first time, seeing that my naturalistic and materialistic worldview also was based on faith. I learned the cosmological argument, and that science didn't have an answer for why the universe began. And I think I always took that for granted and assumed that there was a scientific answer. And when I found out there wasn't, that the greatest atheist scientific mind said, we just don't know and no one can know, that just kind of wasn't satisfying. And I think that for the first time made me engage with the other answers, because I thought science had an answer and it didn't. That those scientists were putting their faith in something that seemed reasonable. So what other options are there, and are they reasonable as well, or perhaps more reasonable? So there's that, but also Christian apologists were really influential because I heard their answers, and very educated people too, people who were lawyers and scientists and mathematicians and philosophers. And so just getting into really deep questions and having really satisfying answers that were not as satisfying when you looked at them from other worldviews, whether that be other religions or my at the time materialistic and naturalistic worldview. The answers just weren't as strong. So I reluctantly became a Christian. And since then I've continued to look at all the different evidence, and I find that the case for Christianity keeps building. I think if you're an intellectually honest person who's interested in the truth, you should always stay open. And so I do think that I am open to being proven wrong. I just, at this point, I don't think that's the case. It would be bananas to me if there would need to be a lot of explaining for it to turn out that Christianity is not true at this point. Okay. So the next question is, what is your favorite argument for God? And this kind of connects to what I just said, but there are a lot of arguments that I like, but one close to my heart is the cosmological argument, which goes, everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. And like I said, that science doesn't have a good answer for that. The universe exists. A recent video I did is, why is there something instead of nothing? If everything has an explanation, why would the universe be an exception? That to me is illogical. And so, the first time I thought about that and realized that science didn't have an answer, that we're entering philosophical territory. And if I'm keeping my logic consistent in every other category of a physical thing, then it would make sense that the universe also has a cause, and you can call that cause whatever you want, but the most common name is God. It makes me think of Shakespeare, would a rose by any other word still smell as sweet? And yes, the name doesn't matter. You can call it whatever you want. People call it God. The universe has a cause, or most likely has a cause based on everything else that we can see and engage with. So that one matters. And if you asked for your favorite, so I can leave it at that. But there are so many others that are important to me as well, like the fine-tuning argument, the moral argument. I could go on and on. Personal experiential stuff too. But the other question is, which argument do you think may be reasonable, but you don't find it personally compelling? And that one I would say is the personal experiential stuff. And it's not that I don't find it compelling at all. And it's not that I don't think it's real, but I feel like when I say personal experiential stuff, that's, like if someone has a vision, or if someone has a miraculous healing, or if someone, hears God audibly, or someone speaks in tongues, like all of these things I'm listing right now, I know people who have had those experiences, and I actually believe them. If it's a stranger, that may well be true, but I'm naturally skeptical, so I'm just going to say until proven true, I don't believe you. Or until I know who you are and have reason to believe it, I just naturally don't file that away. But I do believe that God engages in those ways, and there are people I know and love and trust who have no reason to be deceptive about those things, who I've heard those stories from. And I actually have some of my own stories too that, maybe we could get into sometime. But I just think those are for the individual more, and they for sure encourage me when I hear them, and I get excited when I hear them, and I love that God is engaging with people in really personal ways. But I think because they're personal, those ones don't have as much of an effect on my faith as like the historical arguments and the arguments that come from nature and philosophy and things like that. Okay, hang on. I have another glass of water. Curious what everyone's coffee order is, by the way. Are you like a tea person or a coffee person, or I'm like a soy chai person myself. Okay, next question is, this is a good one. These next two are good ones that I'm still thinking about. So regarding beauty, are there works of art, music, or other creative expressions that have deeply shaped your faith? Like I said, I'm still thinking about this. I feel like I need another month to kind of think about this, because I think it's like a yes and no. I really value creativity and art. I think I'm a creative person. I respond to it. I feel better around it. I am really moved by people who are living out the full extent of their creative expression. Like when you see a musician who's incredible, or a vocalist who's incredible, that's all very moving. And I think what it makes me think about is, like, if God created them, the best voice you've ever heard in the world, like God's voice is going to be better. The best musician you've ever heard in the world, like God can make better music. The best painting you've ever seen, God can make more beautiful art. And so I think where I see God most clearly and what is most moving to my faith in terms of beauty is actually the natural world. And the more natural, the better. Like the least human engagement and human, polishing with the world, the better. When you can get into those places that are just undisturbed by people and see nature as it is, like, to me, that's incredible. It's, I think if you just sit with it a while and actually think about it, and again, think, why is this here as opposed to nothing? Why is it this as opposed to something else? It's not random. It's so obviously not random. Like, I think of those verses where, God says, even if you were silent, like the rocks would cry out. Like, you can see my handiwork in creation. I think you absolutely can. So yes, that does bolster my faith. I think that my faith, just because of the way I'm wired, is more for those other things I mentioned, like the philosophical, logical stuff, the historical stuff. But this absolutely, like, I think regularly, like, wow, God, you're so beautiful. So I'm very grateful for the beauty in the world. And then the next question is regarding goodness. Are there teachings or examples from Jesus Christ or the early church or Christians today that inspire you or are worth highlighting? This is another one I wish I had more time with. So, maybe I could even do a future video that touches on these. But first, Jesus, of course. right? Because all of this information is not, and we're going to talk about this more in the next video, but this is not just so that we would mentally assent to Christianity and be like, oh yeah, I think this is reasonable. Like all of this is building towards us having a relationship with Jesus. And to be a Christian, like the word means little Christ. It's like to be an imitator of Christ. So everything Jesus did is imitation worthy. And, you know, I think what's most striking about Jesus, what compels everyone towards Jesus, is how compassionate he is to everybody, but in particular to the underdogs, to those who are excluded. And so that's an area that is absolutely worthy of imitation. But I also think that type of attitude is the thing I find most moving in modern Christians. So I don't have, and non-Christians as well. Like I don't think you have to be a Christian to be living like a Christian in some cases. Because, I mean, we'll save that for another time. But anyhow, I don't have a particular individual to call out, but I would say when I see people who are going out of their way to love and protect and be gracious towards those they disagree with, those who are mean to them, and the underdogs, that really moves me. And not just people, but I think those who are actually trying to bring about heaven on earth and be good, intentional stewards with their time on earth. That's powerful. Like, I think I have a particular soft spot for animals too. So when I see people who are good stewards to animals, because, listen, going off a little bit on a tangent, but the magnitude of difference there is between God and us is, you know, more than the difference between us and ants or us and bacteria. And so the fact that God is mindful of us and so caring of us is just incredible. And so I think, you know, when I see humans who are caring towards those who others may deem as not worthy of their consideration, which, you know, I think can be animals, you know, people who care about bugs, people who care about livestock, people who care about, and don't call them livestock. More tangents for another day. Yeah, people who go out of their way to care for those who are maybe not regarded well, but God regards us well. I think that is moving to me. So worth highlighting to me. I probably got way off from where you thought I would go with that. But there you go. That's my afternoon musing. Okay, getting back to on track is what denomination am I? I am non-denominational. So I love the denominations. I think there's a lot of value. I kind of see different denominations as different flavors. Like we all have the same core ingredients, and then, you know, there's different emphasis, which might be based on preference of, you know, religious expression, or it might be based on a particular interpretation of scripture. But I think that the core is the important part. And so when I say non-denominational, I mean, I think the core that is shared by all Christians. I have a Protestant leaning, but it just so happens that the church I'm going to right now is non-denominational. And I really like the ability to take the best from all the different denominations. Like I think the different leanings and the different flavors, like I don't want to pick one. I want to focus on Jesus and focus on what the Bible says and do my best to apply that and live that out. But yeah, I personally don't want to be pigeonholed into one denomination or one flavor. That said, you know, I might end up going to a church that's a particular denomination in the future as well, but I will probably always in my heart be non-denominational or just, you know, simply Jesus follower. Okay. The next question is, what is your favorite video you've made and why? So this one kind of surprised me. This one, my favorite video that I've made so far is the one about translation, why there are different translations, what the different translation philosophies are. And I think the reason this is my favorite is because I went into the video with a particular preference, And then after doing the research and learning more about the philosophies and different thinking behind the different types of translations, I came out of it with a different favorite translation or a clarified idea of what my own translation philosophy is. And, I don't think that one is quote unquote right or wrong, because if you're translating languages, there isn't a one-to-one way to do it. There's a lot of different ways you could translate something and still be correct. So, I'm grateful for all the different Bibles, but that was my favorite video because, I think it's nice to change your mind. I think it's nice to get new information and then, adjust accordingly. Okay. So this last question, I wasn't expecting this one. It is, do you have an extensive teeth cleaning routine, fortunate genetics, or both? And the reason I'm laughing a little bit is because you guys don't know this, but I used to be teased in grade school for my bad teeth. I used to have janky teeth. And then I had braces. And then when I was a teenager, I even had jaw surgery, to, adjust my alignment, fix my alignment. And I still, to this day, wear, my nighttime retainer. So, kids, if you have a retainer, wear it, or else your teeth will go back. But, so it's definitely not genetics. There's that. And then besides that, it's just, like the regular brushing, and I like flossing. So regular flossing as well. But yeah, I'm delighted that you like my smile. So thank you very much. Not genetic. That's it for today. I'm caught up on all the comments that have come in so far. So, if more come in, we can do this again. Or if you have new questions that have popped up, we can do this again. Thank you for being interested. Thank you for being here. I'm interested in you as well. And can't wait to see you next week. Thank you. Bye.